Hello and welcome back to my channel where I like to have fun with all things beauty while being critical about what I accept into my collection. Today I am doing my Lethal Cosmetics and Dexter review. So this is the Lethal and the series Dexter collab that they came out with about a month ago now. And I picked up the complete set with everything included except for the nail polishes. There was a delay with the nail polishes, so I thought about getting the set with the nail polish, but I didn't want my order to take any longer than it needed to, so I went without the nail polishes. I don't actually paint my nails that often, so I may pick one up at some point, but I didn't really feel the need. I didn't think they added that much to the collection. So I just got the eyeshadows, the lip products, and the highlight. This was my first time ordering from Lethal. So I didn't actually realize that they were located in Berlin. So I was a little surprised at how long shipping took until I looked further into it and I realized that it took just under 3 weeks for it to get to me in Florida, but it's fine. I never mind waiting, especially with indie brands. As long as I'm aware of it and I don't think anything's lost in the mail, I never mind waiting a few weeks. So took about 3 weeks. Everything got here in one piece. It was packaged very well. So no complaints about any of that. I will say there was a little bit of a glitch on release day, and I talked about this in my Instagram stories. I sort of gave a live play-by-play with how I dealt with customer service. I will say my initial customer service interaction wasn't the greatest because the person, whoever was doing their social media, I wrote them an email and then I also contacted them on Instagram because I wasn't able to check out. I was there at launch and I was waiting in line. So at the exact moment it went live, I was one of the lucky people who was able to get in almost instantly. However, I wasn't able to check out. Now, I'm to this day, I'll never know. I'll never know if it was because I was trying to use PayPal or what. But regardless, it didn't work. I made multiple attempts. And then finally, I realized that I was just wasting my time. So I left the site and then I went back in. When I went back in, this time I had to wait in line. So I waited in the virtual queue for like 40 minutes. And then when I finally did get onto the site, I didn't even play. I didn't even try to use PayPal again. I just used my credit card and then I was able to check out no problem. But that was several hours. It probably took me 3 hours altogether. So during that time is when I contacted customer service. And when I was going back and forth with them, I wanted to know also if why my code wasn't working because I was under the impression that at least 5 creators were given codes that should work for this. And I told them, I said, listen, if the code doesn't work for a new launch, I totally understand that. Like, I have been on the other end of brands. I understand the margins sometimes. They just can't give discounts for everything all the time. But they said, no, the discounts should work unless I was buying the full set because the complete set was already discounted so that I couldn't use a code with that. Fine, whatever, no problem. Except if you did the math, you would have saved more money buying everything individually and then adding a code, which that doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to work like that. And I'm sure as soon as they realized that, they realized that it wasn't supposed to work like that. So it took a few hours, but if you were one of the people like me who ordered the full kit with no discount, you got a refund. If you asked for a refund, they gave me a $20 refund as if I had used a code because the code either should have worked or the bundle deal should have been as good as if you had purchased the items individually with the code. That's just common sense. The bundle deal is usually to incentivize you to buy everything so things are at a better price. When that's not the case, it makes no sense at all. So they rectified it like immediately. I will say they were so responsive. So even though initially I was like, they were a little bit snarky, when I did complain, they got back to me in a different manner. They listened to what I had to say. They handled everything as best as I could have hoped for as a consumer. So I have no complaints about that. genuinely, I'm glad that they did because it was starting to put a bad taste in my mouth. Jumping through all these hoops just to give them my money, essentially, at the end of it, if they had been rude to me, it would have taken some of the joy out of this collection. I'm not gonna lie. As much as I like makeup, there's so many other brands that I have good interactions with. So I would not have continued wanting to purchase from them if this had not gone the way it did because they were so responsive and helpful. I will absolutely purchase from them in the future. You know, the only thing that was a little bit whatever is I put a bunch of photos up on Instagram and I tagged them. And they shared a lot of like super tiny micro creators in their stories. They didn't share my stuff. Is that because I pissed them off? I don't know. But other than that, I'm trying not to read too much into that. Other than that, the interaction was professional and courteous and excellent, very fast. So checkout ultimately went well, and in a lot of ways, I give them credit because their site was being flooded. I think the reason these problems happened is because they did such a good job designing this stuff that a lot of people wanted it, and that's why it took 40 minutes just to get on the website. So I congratulate them. I think they did do a beautiful job designing all of this, especially because they got me. I am not normally somebody who gives a crap about IP collabs. I think a lot of times they're silly. I want my makeup to be useful. I don't care what the packaging looks like because I'm going to put it away. I'm not really realistically going to be displaying my makeup as if it's art in general. So between that and the fact that a lot of times when brands do these collabs, the makeup suffers. The makeup takes a back seat. They're having to pay money to use these IPs, and sometimes the focus is more on that and what it looks like on the outside than what the contents actually are. And from all of the reviews that I saw, at least, they didn't do that. They really did take the time to keep everything high quality, and I think that was a good move because I know this will bring in a lot of new customers for them, and if they give them items that are good, they're more likely to be repeat customers, myself included. I had been looking at Lethal Cosmetics for a number of years at this point, but nothing they came out with ever grabbed me enough to make me actually take the next step and purchase. There had been a few palettes here and there that I had my eye on, and what they do that is unique and that almost got me to purchase was they let you build your own palette, which is a really nice feature. And even though you could do the same thing with your own magnetic palette, you don't really need to build your own palette. It's nice that they offer that service and you get to see it all together, and it's fun. It's like having your own eyeshadow collab. It feels fun to build a palette, whatever. So I had built multiple palettes, put them in my cart, waited for a discount even, and come so close to checking out in the past, but something else always eclipsed it. Whether it was another palette or just wanting to save money for another item, I just never ended up actually checking out. As much as I heard good things about their formula, it's like I need more than that. I need good formula and outstanding color story for me to purchase something these days. I just have too much makeup. So something needs to really draw me in, especially when it's expensive. So this was that for me. This was a little bit of something special that got me to finally purchase from them. And as much as this review is about this collection, for myself, it's a review to decide whether or not I'm going to continue purchasing from them. So while I will be talking about this palette, I'm also going to be talking about the formula in a way that is hopefully useful for you if you're not interested in this palette, but you want to know if another palette from them is something that you should consider. So that's what I'm hoping this is useful for. There's no two ways about it. This is a limited color story, so this is not going to work for everybody. This is a niche palette. It just is what it is. I think the one good thing is I don't think anybody is purchasing this collection thinking that it's going to be the most versatile thing or that it's going to be their new everyday makeup palette. I think this is definitely the kind of collection where it's what you see is what you get. There are no surprises. This is either interesting to you or it's not, and I appreciate the clarity and all of that. There were no surprises. This was exactly as it was presented, and I personally feel after using this for the past week almost every day, I'm happy with my purchase. The spoiler for this review, I guess, is I have absolutely no regrets, especially when it comes to the eyeshadow, because that was the product that I was most interested in. And although I had expected the lethal formula to be very good, if anything, it was a little bit better than what I expected. So I'm really happy to report back on that. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to pop in some B-roll. That way you can see the colors of everything. And then afterwards, I'm going to talk about the formula. All right, so hopefully that gave you a good idea of what the color offering is. You know, it was funny, before I purchased this collection, I saw somebody dupe the Vibes, and what they did was they actually made their own Dexter palette. They were a big fan of the show, so they took all the colors that they would have made and put into a palette, and they included a lot more color. They had the same number of shadows, but they broke away from everything being so red. And I think if I were to come up with any criticism of this palette, it would be that it could be a little more diverse. Some of these reds, like the two lighter reds here, you don't really need both. Even the two red shimmers, while they are different, they're definitely two different tones. I could have done with one, I didn't really need both. So while it is aesthetic to look at, like to see everything together and being very red with the blood theme, like that all makes sense, I do think that the show offered more. There was more that they could have pulled from in terms of being inspired to choose the colors. But again, this is not a mystery palette, so anybody picking this up, they know what the color scheme is. So aside from color, what do I think of the formula? I'll start with the mattes. Well, one good thing about this is that the formula is consistent. So the mattes all feel like the same formula, the shimmers all feel like the same formula. I personally like that. I don't love it when brands have 5 different shimmer formulas. It's okay if there's 2, if there's like a thinner and a thicker formula. I understand the need for that. But when there's like so many, kind of like, you know, I don't even buy Odin's Eye anymore, but that's one in particular because it feels like a crapshoot. You never know what kind of formula you're going to get. And that is annoying. So I'm happy that they don't do that. They seem to have 2 consistent formulas for each. So the matte formula is great. It's absolutely great. I really like matte shadows that are both pigmented and blendable. I think that's most people's preference, but some people like more pigment than others, and I think a lot of it comes down to your eye shape and your tools and just how you prefer to see your makeup. So that's why every brand hasn't adopted the same formula, quite frankly, because different people have different preferences. I think the biggest name brand that I could say is my favorite matte formula is Natasha Denona, the current formula. I'm not sure about her older stuff, but her current matte formula is my absolute preference. That's why I just picked up the little mini 5-pan, the neutral palette. I'm getting so much use out of that because even though I have a Patrick Ta neutral palette, I have a Makeup by Mario neutral palette, I have the Viseart neutral matte palette, I have all of these other larger assortments, I keep going back to that one because it's just my favorite. It's not too hard, it's not too soft, it's blendable, it's just a Goldilocks matte formula for me, and I would say that this is not dissimilar from that. I've been able to work with it for a number of days now with no patchiness and no issues. So A+ matte formula. The shimmer formula is close to perfect. This is one of my favorite shimmer formulas, for sure. The only downside is it will crease if you don't use the proper primer underneath. So like a lot of times I'll use the matte paint pot or even a concealer. If I don't feel like taking the time to get out my eye primer, I will just use a concealer. You shouldn't do that with this. This formula will definitely crease, and it'll crease almost immediately. Like the first time I put this on my eyes, I didn't bother to use a primer, and within 10 minutes, I did have some creasing. It was not so bad that I felt like I needed to take it off. Like sometimes with Adept, for example, those shimmers are so emollient that I have to wash them off my face, because if I put too much on or if I'm not wearing a proper primer, they look terrible. This was nowhere near that. They're soft, but they're not wet. So it was a creasing that was perfectly acceptable. It was just noticeable if you were up close. Easy fix. I put a primer on and it was fine. I really didn't have any fallout. I don't think any at all, actually, which is impressive. And these are impactful. The duochromes are very shifty, they're easy to see the shift, and the intense shimmers are intense. They deliver on that. And I was worried. I think my expectation was that they were going to be good, but that they weren't going to be sort of on the level with my other favorite shimmers like Gourmand Girls, Fantasy Cosmetica, Unearthly, you know, the list goes on and on. But a lot of my the indie brands that I repurchase from the most are the ones that have the most impressive shimmers. That's my priorities. Everybody's priorities are different. Mine is shimmers that take it to the next level, and these lived up to those other brands. So I'm really happy to report back, because that means I'm gonna buy from them again. Nothing here made me want to drop everything and buy from them immediately. It's not like I necessarily think that these shadows outperformed my other favorite shadows, but they met them where they're at. And these days, like, that's all I could ask for. I'm so used to brands falling below that mark, because my expectations have just gotten higher and higher the more brands that I buy from that have such high standards, that when a brand actually meets those other, like, it's like an elite list, at least according to me. My little elite list of the brands at the top, I can add this to the list, and I'm happy to say that, because if this is the direction they're going in, if their quality and their packaging and their consideration in a collection is the new norm for them, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they come out with next. I really am. I hope it's not necessarily all IPs, because I don't like that. If everything was an IP collab, I feel like that gets old really fast. But whatever the collection is, I'm going to be interested. So happy to report back on that. When it came to looks, I was able to easily come out with 5 distinct looks with this palette. I think it would be a little bit difficult to do much more than that. I would say maybe 7. 7 looks that were like truly distinct, but probably not more than that, because like I said, the color story is limited, but if it's one that you like, I think it's great. I was actually blown away at how I could wear red eyeshadow. I don't have a lot of red eyeshadow. Probably the best thing about this is I am saturated in every color except for red. So that was another reason that I could more easily justify this. I don't have a lot of red eyeshadow, because I never really thought it was flattering on me. But the first day that I got this and I put it on my eyes, I was happy, because I felt like it was pretty. It was not something that I would want to wear to work. It wasn't something that I would necessarily wear super frequently, but it was flattering in a way that I didn't expect it. So often I'll get like a blue leaning palette and be disappointed at how unflattering I feel like it is on my face. So the fact that I was pleasantly surprised by the red, you know, obviously that's a skin tone and preference thing, but I was happy to see that it was prettier than I expected. So that means I'm going to wear this more than I originally thought. Originally, I thought this was more going to be to test the formula and to have something with the Dexter logo on it. You know, I did really like the original series. I watched the whole thing kind of recently, a couple years ago. When I found out that the sequels were coming out, there's 3 sequels now. That made me rewatch it, and it's silly, it's goofy, but if you're okay with that, if you expect it to be a little bit campy, it's a fun show, you know? Especially these days, I feel like I need non-serious entertainment in my life. So this show was a good time. It reminded me of a simpler time in my life, the early 2000s, and I don't know, nostalgia, I guess it just kind of got to me. I enjoyed the show so much that when we got a puppy recently, I named him Dexter. So all that to say that my reason for picking this up was multi-layered, but I don't regret it. Safe to say, if you're looking at the eyeshadow, I did do a quick search today and I see that it is available for purchase immediately on Camera Ready Cosmetics and maybe other places. I'm not sure where else Lethal sells their stuff, but even though directly through the Lethal website, it's a pre-order for I think almost 2 months pre-order at this point, it is available other places. I don't know that you can get the full collection, but if you were just interested in the palette, it is available there. This being the big ticket item, this is the item that I cared the most about getting use out of. Everything else was kind of an add-on. And I'm not mad that I have it, but the lip products, for example, like so often, they're just sort of something that I'll take because they're part of the collection, but I usually don't like all of the lip products. Luckily, all of the lip products worked. The 2 stains, I'm not a stain person. The darker purple stain on me works a little better than the light red stain. This one I put on yesterday and no amount of exfoliation could get it to look even on me. It wound up only coloring the inside of my lips and leaving the outside bare. So but I'm not a stain person. I think if you're a stain person, these definitely hold up. They definitely last. And they're usable. The 2 that I actually really liked are the 2 glosses. The yellow gloss, it does not turn your lips yellow, so I'm very happy about that. Yellow is not a good color on me. So I'm happy that this just provides a little bit of hydration and shimmer, so I will use that. And today I'm wearing the black one, and this is beautiful. This will bring down the tone of some things. So some of my lipsticks, if they pull a little bit too warm, I'll go with a black or a gray gloss, and it'll help neutralize the color a little bit. This does work for that, or sheared out, no color at all. So this is a versatile gloss. I really like the formula. The last thing in the collection is this highlighter, which is beautiful. It's beautiful on the hand. I would say as a highlight, I'm not in love with it. For me, okay, so I'll say this. I'm happy to have it because when I put it on my hands and I look at it, it makes me feel happy. But am I going to actually use it as a highlighter on a daily basis? No, because it changes the color of my blush too much. The other day, I tried to do a more warm blush look, and it's pink. It's pinky blue. So it's this cool tone, icy blue pink, and it really overpowered the warmer blush. So it messed the look up. It changed things in a way that means that I'm not going to want to use it with every look. However, I do tend to prefer cool tone everything. So I can definitely get away with this more often than not. But I'm just not going to want to reach for it over my more preferred highlighters that I use almost every day. You know, it's not going to surpass that, and it is full of glitter. There are definitely a lot of glitter particles in this. I put it on my collarbone today, and I took a picture, so I'll throw that in so you can get an idea of what it looks, even sheared out. Like, I put it on my collarbone, and then I rubbed it off almost, and that's how glittery it still is. So it's quite glittery, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's fun. I'm glad I have it. I'm not mad that I have it. This is one of the rare times that I am actually happy that I bought the full set. I think the full set added to the experience, and this was fun for me. There's no 2 ways about it. This was useful because now I have an idea of what their products are like, and it was fun. I have made other purchases with sets like this from other brands in the past and realized that I normally regret getting almost everything that's not the eyeshadow palette, and I'm happy to say that I definitely don't feel like that in this case. I had a ton of fun with it. I think it's perfect for what it is, and yeah, that's really it. I don't have any real complaints. I guess the one thing that I almost forgot is the packaging. So, this is not a wooden box. I don't think anybody expected it to be. It is fully cardboard and it's decently constructed. I think I was maybe slightly disappointed at some of the seams because I think that this might get a little messed up over time. I already have some fingerprints and things, and because this is a sticker, it's not that easy to clean. Like, I definitely don't want to get this wet. So I guess maybe I wish I felt like this was a little bit more durable. But that's really it. That's really the only thing that I came across that was a little bit different than the way it appeared in the promo stuff. Everything else I found anyway was completely as it seemed online. So I finished editing this entire video and I realized I never actually talked about the brushes. I mean, if I'm honest, I think it's very self-explanatory. These are run-of-the-mill but very good synthetic brushes. They're soft, they're functional, they do all the brush things. I mean, there's really not that much to say. I think the thing that stands out the most is the carrying case. I think that's actually useful in travel. You know, sets like this are not the type of thing that I want to use on a daily basis because I do think they're pretty and I kind of want to keep them nice. So I don't want to beat them up too much. I did use them briefly just to make sure that they weren't scratchy or anything like that, and they certainly weren't. They performed great. I really like the handles. I think they were very easy to hold. They're a good length, they're a good shape. And I don't know. I mean, I can't say that much more. Other than I don't think you would be disappointed. I would say if somebody came to me and asked for like an actual just brush recommendation, I wouldn't tell them to drop everything and get these. I think, you know, I would go other places for everyday brushes. But I don't think that's mostly who's looking at these. I think most of the people even looking at these brushes probably have quite a few brushes in their collection already. And these are just sort of an addition. And if that's the case and you're wondering if these are usable, I would say they absolutely are. So, you know, it's like pretty much everything else. What you see is what you get. There are no surprises, but these are nice or high quality. And I think the case is actually super useful. So, you know, whereas a lot of collections have makeup bags that are kind of silly, this is better than that. I would say this is useful and they're cute. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say about the brushes. That's it. That's my whole review. Although I'm not on a strict low buy, I am still being a lot more careful with my purchases, both for my own finances and just I have too much makeup. So whatever I do buy, I want it to be intentional. So my goal is to, even if I have less reviews, to have higher quality stuff. So hopefully that's helpful. I've gotten comments saying that I complain too much, but I'm like, honestly, my name is Critical Beauty. It's in the title. Like, I do not want to come on here and tell you that everything is fantastic and everyone needs every launch. That's ridiculous. That's patently false. And I think if I did that, I would get criticized for that too. So I'm trying to be just very realistic. My next palette review is going to be the new Gourmand Girls Bitten palette that just came out a few weeks ago. I need to use that a few more times, but I'm just about ready to review that. So that's coming up. I may also do a new makeup hot take sort of theme video. I used to do it almost every week, but that was like during the fall when there was a lot of releases. And then when they slowed down, everything was just a little bit less interesting. So I wasn't really in a rush to get back to those because I don't know, I watch them for entertainment and I don't always feel like I'm that funny. But there have been a number of releases lately that have caught my eye that I have had some thoughts about. So there's one of those probably in the works. I'm still planning on doing a follow-up from my laser treatment that I had that destroyed my skin about a month ago. And I have some other stuff that I'm working on, but in the meantime, I'll send you off with a word from Mr. Dexter himself. He looks so innocent when I hold him up like this, but I promise you, he is every bit as chaotic as you would expect a 6-month-old puppy to be. He's a good boy though. And that is it for now. If you have any interest in learning more about ways of helping marginalized communities in 2025, there's a link below to a website that I've been working on that is just sort of a warehouse for different resources that I've personally come across. Everything from places to shop, to places to donate, to community resources, that kind of thing. So that will be below in every video. And I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're having a good day or night wherever you are. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.